The grind of the CAF Champions League is upon us because although it feels like the competition just began, by this time next week, we'll have already been halfway through the group stages. So this is a very important 7-day period where we're going to have two matches that are going to be played. We're going to preview all 8 matches up next on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Welcome to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. I'm the host, Maher Mizahi. This podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. As always, there's a lot of great stuff happening on the website. I recommend you check out the articles there. But this week in particular, I really want you guys to check out the website because there's an article that I published back in May called Taking a Stand about the Al Ahly Ultras that were visiting Tunis for the CAF Champions League final. And what happened is I finally finished the video that accompanied the article. So there's like a short mini documentary that's about 10 minutes long about Al Ahly supporters finding a home away from home as they've been banned from supporting their team at home. So that video is on the Africa as a Country YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description. You can watch that. Or if you want to reread the article, and then you can watch the video as it's embedded in the article. I'll also put a link to the article there as well. So please check it out. Actually, I'm going to put a 1-minute trailer right now just to give you a little bit of an appetite. You can pause this, go watch that, and then come back and we'll preview the matches. But take a look at the trailer. In North Africa, it is said that the spectacle isn't on the pitch, it's in the stands. In May, we went to Tunisia to cover the African Champions League final between Esperance de Tunis and Al Ahly, but also to learn more about how North African supporters are generating world-class atmospheres by fighting for one another in and out of the stadium.
People will go out of their way to get a special visa to go to Tunisia, travel to 3 different countries, sacrifice a monk's wage just to come to this game. It means something more. It's something unique. It's not just your average away day.
الأهلي نشجعه حتى لو في آخر الدنيا.
ملك أفريقيا النادي الأهلي ده اللي احنا بنهوى في بالي الأهلي ليه بروح.
So yeah, hope you like that. The good news is that Africa as a Country did like it, and they are asking me to maybe perhaps make another video in a similar style, documentary style, a little bit longer over next year. I'm not sure what I should do yet. Been thinking about maybe going to Mauritania to profile Al Hilal as they're sort of finding home away from home as the Sudanese civil war rages on. They're been doing incredible things in football. I've also thought about maybe profiling some of the best academies in North Africa to sort of help us look out for the stars of tomorrow. But if you have any ideas about a African football documentary that you'd like done, let me know, and maybe we can scrap up the budget to go and do that. Anyways, let's talk about the African Champions League. It's happening today. Actually, by the time the first match is 3 hours from now. So as Esperance versus Sagrada Esperanca. So actually, as you're watching this, there's probably a match happening right now. Got to this preview a little bit late, but throughout the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we have match day 3 coming up the week after that. So it's a very compact, dense period of the calendar. And one thing that I think top coaches do is they compartmentalize very well. So, when we were growing up in school, I don't know if they taught you guys this all over the continent. They tell you to have SMART goals. It's an acronym, SMART, and I forget what I think it's like sustained, measurable, attainable, blah 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 blah. But like the point is to break down your goals into things that are digestible. Don't just say I want to become, the richest man in the world. No, it's okay. This year, so you put a time on it. I want to make $200,000 doing X, Y, Z, and that way you can focus on simple tasks one at a time. And I've seen top coaches do across sports, by the way, is as you're looking at, a long season ahead, because most clubs that are playing in the CAF Champions League are going to be playing high 40s, maybe 50, maybe 60, maybe 70 matches in a calendar season. A club like Al Ahly could, I think, play 70 matches, if I'm not mistaken, with the Club World Cup now. You can't just like focus on the 70 matches ahead of you. It's too much and it's too far away and it's too abstract. But what good coaches tend to do is they tend to break the seasons down into, little groups, little capsules, little dishes, and you could talk about, for example, the first four matches of the season. We're going to need X amount of points. We're playing these guys, etc. And then, oh, look. So I think coaches really for the CAF Champions League, would be a really good thing to do is to say, okay, out of the next two matches, let's think about them as sort of one. And how many points do we want out of these next 6 points? Are we looking for 3, 4, 6? Obviously, nobody's going to say one or zero, because that would put you in a very bad position. But just wanted to think about that, like these, this next week, these next 7, 8, 9 days, it's going to be very interesting to see how teams manage it from a psychological perspective. Well, those last 4 minutes, just to really come up with that last sentence. Sorry if you can't stand all the rumbling. Anyways, so today's match, Friday, we have Sagrada Esperanca from Angola taking on Esperance. I think this is the first time that we have two clubs with similar, like the same word in the name in two different languages. Sagrada Esperança, if my Portuguese is, I'm gonna guess, means sacred hope, and Esperance just means hope in French and in Portuguese. And this match is going to be happening anyways at 5 p.m. in Luanda at the 11th of November Stadium in Angola. Esperance are coming off of a 2-0 victory in the league, JS Omran, and a 4-0 drubbing of Djoliba in match day 1 of the CAF Champions League. And if you remember, Esperance started the year off pretty poorly, and they fired their coach Miguel Cardozo. They brought in a Romanian coach who's sort of coached everywhere in the world, and so far he's been doing well. In his 3 matches in charge, he has 2 victories and a draw, including these 2 victories that I cited. Esperance also have some good news in terms of injuries. Youssef Belaili and Mohamed Amin Tougai are the 2 Algerian players are in the group for this Angola trip. Belaili, as I think everybody that's watching this channel knows, is a dynamic, magical left winger, creative left winger. Actually can play along the attacking line, but at his best along the left wing. He was on fire in that first match against Djoliba, and if you rewatch the highlights, you can see that he had 2 assists for their first 2 goals, and he was absolutely crucial to the Esperance winning the CAF Champions League in years past, and I'm predicting that he's going to be crucial for them to win it this year again. So it's good to see that, because he picked up an injury against Djoliba after the first half, after he was a wizard, and it's good to see that he's back, because I think they're going to need him in the CAF Champions League. Tougai is also a very important return from injury, because right now Esperance de Tunis don't have any center halves. Usually their center halves are Tougai, the Algerian center half, alongside Yassine Meriah, who's at times captain for Esperance, at times captain for the Tunisian national team. Very good ball playing center half. Yassine Meriah picked up an ACL injury, so he did his ligaments in his knee, and Tougai was injured as well. And so Esperance were having to play this guy named Hamza Jalasi, who made, despite the fact that they beat Djoliba 4-0, made some horrible mistakes in possession, just gave the ball away to Djoliba on 2 or 3 occasions, and they nearly scored. And in the last match against JS Omran, they've actually had to play Faris Ben Hamida, who's usually a left back. They had to play him as a center half. So a midfielder and a left back in 2 center back positions is not a solution for Esperance de Tunis. And even though Tougai is back, that's also not a permanent solution. Esperance are going to have to recruit 1, if not 2 center halves in the winter if they're serious about winning the CAF Champions League this summer. So that's something to keep in mind, is that even for this match, they're not going to have, they're definitely not going to have the starting center halves. Maybe Tougai will play. I don't anticipate him starting this match, but even if he does, one of their center halves is going to be out. And as a result, you might see Esperance try to compensate, try to play a little more defensively to cover that. Sagrada Esperanca look like probably the team that is in most crisis in the CAF Champions League. They lost, of course, 5-1 to Pyramids in match day 1 of the CAF Champions League, and in the league, after that, they lose 3-0 to Sao Salvador. They parted ways with their coach, Roque Sapiri. He was in charge since 2020. I think he was in charge for more than 80 matches with Sagrada Esperanca. So that's a tough decision to make. The guy that got you here, and all of a sudden the club is starting to lose matches nonstop, and he's fired. So they really do seem like a club in crisis. It's usually too early to say that matches in the second match day are must wins, but I do feel like this is a must win for Sagrada Esperanca, because if they don't win this match, all of a sudden they're sitting on 2 losses. and a very, very uncertain future because that momentum can just drag you down, 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 down. But still, like I said, Esperance are not without very important defenders. It's a very long trip from Tunisia to Angola. My prediction here is going to be either a narrow Esperance victory, 1-0, 2-1, or a goalless draw, like a 0-0. I say 1-0 or 0-0. Esperance proved last year against Sundowns in the semifinals of the CAF Champions League that they know how to travel. Of course, it was under a different coach and it was with their real defenders. Um, but the rest of the squad has proven that they can travel and get difficult results away from home and defend well away from home. So they're going to have to do something similar here, and I predict that they will. Second match I wanted to talk about is Orlando Pirates versus Al Ahly, and this is probably the match that everybody has starred on the calendar. You know, this is the one that everybody's going to be watching, all the neutrals. It's a 2 p.m. kickoff. Uh, 2 p.m. kickoff in South Africa, and although it's December 6th in the northern hemisphere, which usually means it's probably cold where you are, um, in the northern hemisphere at least, in South Africa, it's going to be 34 degrees in Johannesburg at kickoff, and it's going to be very sunny. Um, Al Ahly also are not in great form. They drew their last league match against National Bank 0-0, and they do not historically travel well in South Africa. I read that they have a losing record versus Pirates. And in 2015, we all remember that CAF Confederation Cup semifinal where Pirates went through an aggregate against Al Ahly. I think it was 5-2 or something like that. So Al Ahly do not, I don't, they don't. I also think I read a statistic that he never won in South Africa, but that can't be right, can it? But I do know that it's first it's another long trip, and and I do predict that it's going to be tough for them to do that. But Pirates also lost. They're not in great form. They had a great win in the CAF Champions League match. They won against CR Belouizdad, but they lost their first match of the season against Stellenbosch. Um, in theory, you know, I would like Pirates here. One thing I don't like is some of the confidence that I've been seeing out of South African media and former players and personalities. I'm seeing Raleigh Mofokeng being linked to Barcelona B. I'm seeing people saying, "Oh, Al Ahly have no shot to win." For me, that's not a winning mentality. That you know, lack of humility, especially playing against a side like Al Ahly. And the other thing that I kind of worry about for Pirates is that starting 11. It's the starting 11 I looked at against Stellenbosch. I didn't watch the match, but I looked at the starting 11. It's almost the exact same starting 11 that played against CR Belouizdad in Algeria. Um, and when you look over the matches, I mean, it's pretty much the same players that are playing throughout this season. And I worry about depth because when you look at the top sides in this tournament, like Al Ahly, like Sundowns, almost like Esperance to a certain extent, at least in the attacking positions, they all have depth. They have more than 11 strong players. They have like 16, 17. Al Ahly have 23, 24 top players. Last year, I think Sundowns used more than 40 players in the CAF Champions League. Because you're going to be playing so many matches, you need to keep your players fresh. Will Pirates, if they continue to play the starting 11 all the time, I know the players are young and they have energy and everything, but if they continue to play the same 11, will we see a decrease in performance as the year goes on? That's something that I have to ask myself about right now. I think everybody has to keep an eye on. But yeah, Al Ahly, I mean, if you're Pirates, you want to play Al Ahly right now. Why? Because, like I said, they're not in great form at the moment. Last year, like I said, Al Ahly played more than, I want to say more than 65 matches throughout all competitions. Um, the league just started in Egypt. There's been a lot of injuries. Al Ahly are playing players like Afsha, Abdel Fattah at right back, Samir Mohammed. Like their star striker, Wissam Abu Ali, the Palestinian that scored 18 league goals last season, is just finally getting fit now. Ashraf Dari, the Moroccan center half, is finally getting fit now. Mohamed Hani, who hurt himself in the Egyptian Super Cup 3 months ago, is finally getting fit as well. So they have so much depth, unlike Pirates probably, from what I'm seeing at least. And they're playing with their B players, and they're still killing a team like Stade Abidjan 4-2. And that's the thing about Ahly. I compare them to sort of like a big, semi truck with a big diesel engine. You know, diesel engines, it takes more time to get going, but when it gets going, when that machine gets going, it's like there's no stopping it. Because they play so many matches, Al Ahly do not hesitate about giving some of their players, time off. Hey, go take your 2 weeks over here, take your 3 weeks over here. Don't worry about playing this match against, NP, or don't worry about playing this match against, I don't know, Future or whatever the case may be, because it's going to be a long season. And when we're in the grind, Not now, not in the first or the second match day of the African Champions League after we smashed our opponent 4-2 in the first match day. It's almost like the if you watch professional basketball, the NBA, some of those, top teams like Golden State Warriors of years past, they don't really care until it's the playoffs because that's the only thing that matters. So during the regular season, they're just like, okay, whatever. Just worry about being healthy at the right time so that you can peak when it's time to peak. And that's how I feel about Al Ahly. So it's good. Again, if you're Pirates, now's the time to play them. 2 p.m. is a good time to play them as well, as it's going to be so hot. I'm looking forward to this match very, very much so. It's the match I'm most looking forward to. Um, everybody's saying that the atmosphere in Orlando Stadium is gonna be top. We'll see about that. I'm very excited. I think it's gonna be a scoring draw here. I think it's gonna be 2-2, 1-1 or 2-2, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go any other way. Al Ahly win would be a little bit of a surprise. Pirates win wouldn't be a surprise to me, but I think it's gonna be a scoring draw. At the same time, in the DRC, another 2 p.m. kickoff where should be it's going to be raining, but it should still be humid and hot. 32 degrees is Maniema Union against Raja Casablanca. Raja, good injury news as well. It seems like many teams are getting a lot of important players back. Al Ahly are, Esperance are, and now Raja are getting Mohsen Boda, the Mauritanian midfielder, and Mohamed Zarida, the kid from Raja Casablanca from the youth ranks. They're both coming back in midfield. Raja are targeting 4 out of 6 points for the next 2 matches. I think they're playing their next 2 matches away from home. Um, and Raja, like MC of Algiers, like CR Belouizdad, not scoring a lot of goals this year. So they finally got their first win with their coach Ricardo Pintosa against Hassania Agadir after the first match day of the CAF Champions League. Remember, they lost against FAR Rabat 2-0 in that sort of Moroccan derby. And then they play against Agadir and they win 3-1. Before that 3-1 victory, they had only scored 2 goals in 7 matches. So you see that they were really struggling to score goals. But then they win 3-1 against Agadir. They still, as we've mentioned like 3 or 4 times now, they're probably missing some strikers and some explosive attacking players. They're going to have to buy players in the winter transfer window without a shadow of a doubt. But I think it's going to do a lot for their confidence. I think it was Ricardo, the coach's first victory after 4 draws as well. So was that an anomaly or was that a sign of things to come? I think that's what we're going to see if they can get a victory in Congo. Remember, they're playing in Kinshasa. They're not playing in Kindu, where Maniema Union is from. So I'm assuming there's not going to be a huge amount of support, even though the temperature should be an advantage for the hosts. We'll see. Maniema Union, we watched against Sundowns, right? They defended very, very well after the first 20 minutes where they were a little bit under pressure. We really like their defending captain, Ndobele. We liked Ajay Basiala, the winger. But they, after that great result against Sundowns, they lost to Rangers in Group B of Lina Foot, the Congolese league. They still remain first, but that was their first loss of the season, and it ruins an invincibility streak. And I think we're going to learn a lot about Maniema here because I haven't watched them, of course, in the domestic league this year. But I do wonder, are they just a team that can defend against top sides like they did against Sundowns away from home? Or can they actually attack? Can they play football? Can they win a midfield battle against a team like Raja, who's compact, that can pass triangles around you nonstop? Raja, of course, they struggle to stretch defenses, and attack with pace into space. But if we're going to get into a midfield battle, a battle of possession, I'd like to see if Maniema Union can maybe beat Raja that way. We'll see. We're going to learn a lot about them here, I think. And here's where I'm going to be able to see, okay, Maniema can do this away from home, and they can do this at home. Saturday at 5 p.m., we have another match, Stade d'Abidjan versus CR Belouizdad. I have a friend in Côte d'Ivoire right now who told me that it's very, very humid in the Ivory Coast as well. And I remember it takes me back to January, almost a year ago at the AFCON now. And Abidjan, it has that lagoon right behind the Stade Félix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium where they're going to be playing this match. And I remember sitting in the press box, not doing anything, sipping on like an iced ginger drink or a bisap or something. And as soon as I put it down, just sweating, sweating, sweating. And it's not just me, everybody. It's so humid in Abidjan at times, around this time of the year as well. Anyways, Algerians like it because, Algerians and North Africans in general, they like to complain when they play in West Africa, in Southern Africa, they complain about two things. The first thing is I mentioned it a few times, the kickoff times, because in North Africa, you're almost always playing matches at night. Now, I understand that sometimes, floodlight, electricity problems, some stadiums aren't equipped with the right floodlight equipment and everything. So that's one thing. But North Africans think that opposing teams use this as a weapon. Like they're playing at this time because we're not used to the heat and the humidity, and they're going to try to tire us out that way. The other thing they complain about is the state of the pitch. And the Algerians are so happy because at Felicia in Abidjan, the Stade Abidjan Stadium is actually, they're saying it's like a pool table. It's a perfect pitch, better than anything they have in Algeria. So um, yeah, two teams looking to bounce back after poor results in the first match day. CR Belouizdad, of course, got beat by Pirates, and Stade d'Abidjan got beat by Ahly, both pretty convincingly. CR Belouizdad started the year off poorly. I looked this up. They had 20 departures from the beginning of last season in the transfer window, and they brought in 14 players. And they also made a coaching change, and were it just in October, I think, when they made their coaching change. So within a month. So because there was so much turnover in personnel, CR Belouizdad started the year off slowly. Again, for Pirates, that was the perfect time to play against them. But slowly but surely, they're getting into gear now in the league. They beat ISO Schliff last week 2-0. Goals from Mahyous and Kaniso Mayo, the South African, is really coming along nicely. And all of a sudden, they've played 9 matches in the Algerian league, and the league leader played 11, and they're 6 points behind. So all of a sudden, if they win their matches in hand, CR Belouizdad are top of the table in Algeria again. So um, I think it was just so much instability over the summer. That's what really killed them. But now we're going to see what they're really made of. Is can they make a run? Can they beat a good team like Stade d'Abidjan away from home? I think they will. Stade d'Abidjan also, after losing to Al Ahly, they lost their match in the league against Bouaké, I think in Bouaké, which is a good 4 or 5 hour drive north, even hotter over there, but it's more of dry heat than Abidjan. So it was a tough match for them. And remember, their coach is very young and inexperienced. He's never coached in a competition like this before. So we'll learn a lot about Stade d'Abidjan in this match, just like we'll learn more about Maniema Union in this upcoming match as well. Um, the other match that we have at 5 p.m., or is this one's at 8 p.m., I believe. Yeah. MC of Algiers versus Young Africans. Mouloudia against Young Africans. Mouloudia, we've mentioned a few times. I have mentioned them as a sleeping giant of African football, and one of their strengths, I've always said, is their fans, their fans, their fans. They have the most amount of fans in Algeria. The problem for Mouloudia is that they had a lot of crowd trouble in the qualifying rounds of the CAF Champions League, and as a result, they're not going to be playing their first 2 matches of the group stages with fans. So there won't be any fans against Young Africans at the 5th of July Stadium in Algiers. And actually, MC of Algiers, even in their league, even in the next 6 matches, whether it's CAF Champions League or even in the league, won't be played with fans due to crowd trouble before and violence problems that the club has had. So that's a big deal for a club like that, and I'm curious to see how it's going to affect them in the league and in the Champions League. For Yanga, I forgot to check their latest league results, but anyways, they flew to Algiers, and I think Simba is also playing in Algeria, and they took 2 separate flights, and each of them was like they traveled for 24 hours. And I was reading an article in the Tanzanian press that the government was like, why didn't they just ask us? We could have sent them on one plane up to Algeria and chartered directly, and it would have been a lot easier for everybody. But anyway, so they had very lengthy travel, and that could weigh on them. Yanga, like a few clubs that I've mentioned now, they have good news on the injury front. Khalid Aucho, their very experienced Ugandan defensive midfielder, and Clement Mziza, who the Tanzanians call the Tanzanian Drogba. They're back for Yanga. Clement Mziza, I think, might start instead of maybe Prince Dube for Zimbabwe, and Ocho will take his rightful place in midfield. But a negative result for Yanga will really ramp up the pressure because remember, in match day 1, they lose to El Hilal at home. Now, the good thing for them is that they're away from home. I'm assuming Mouloudia is going to want to dominate possessions, and I think Young Africans are a good counter-attacking side. When you look at the pace of Pacom Zuzwa, I just remember them against Sundowns last year countering very, very well, and even against CR Belouizdad countering very, very well. So, yeah, they have a lot of players with pace. They have players that can play balls in behind an opposing line. So, um, I think it's a style of play that might suit them. So that's good news for Yanga. One sec. Now, MC of Algiers, like CR Belouizdad, the other Algerian club, like Raja Casablanca, also a club that have struggled to score goals this season. We're in the 10th match day of the Algerian league. Last year, when they won the league, by the 10th match day, they had scored 29 goals. This year, they've only scored 8. Just to show you, they haven't scored in their last 255 minutes of play. This despite the fact that they've recruited 6 or 7 attacking players, including strikers and wingers. Some say that this is the absence of Youssef Belaili, who went to Esperance de Tunis, and his genius. He would basically serve, he would score, and he would serve his teammates with such golden opportunities that they couldn't possibly miss. Others say that this is the fact that there was so much turnover in personnel. There's just lack of chemistry, lack of confidence as well. Um, I don't think you can say it's a lack of quality because, like I said, you have players like Amin Delor, Amin Messousa, Zakaria Naiji. These are all like international players, players that have scored goals in the past. Anyways, something to keep an eye on. But their coach keeps saying, "We're creating the chances. We're creating the chances." It's the analogies are usually like the ketchup analogy. You know, uh, you're trying to get the ketchup out of the bottle. You just want a little bit. Nothing's coming out, and then eventually it all comes out. Uh, it's one of those. That's what when you talk about momentum. Momentum begets momentum. You score one, and then more and more goals will come. So we'll see if that's the case for MC of Algiers, or if they have a real structural problem when it comes to attacking play. I'm going to run through the last few matches really quickly. The other matches you have Pyramids versus Djoliba. I'm looking forward here in this match. Basic analysis, just Djoliba are, a people's club, a popular club in Mali. I'm looking forward to seeing the stadium in Mali packed, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Pyramids do away from home. Because at home, what they did was that they sat on the ball in possession, stretched the defense out wide, and they attacked from the wide position. So Ibrahim Adel, Mustafa Fathi, Mohamed Hamdi, the left back, they're the ones that created almost all the goals, particularly Ibrahim Adel, the young Egyptian maestro. Um, but if you're away from home and you're not dominating possession, are you still as comfortable stretching defenses in terms of width? So I'm going to see what is Pyramids' game plan away from home and attacking the opposition. That's one thing I'm interested in. And finally, Al Hilal is playing Mazembe. They're playing this match in Mauritania. It's going to be the last match of match day 2. I'm going to try, actually, I talked about maybe getting some funding from Africa's country to shoot another documentary. I'm going to try to go to one of these matches before the season is over in Mauritania. I think that would be really cool. Um, because in the last 5 matches across all competitions, Al Hilal are unbeaten, and they boast a 9-match home unbeaten streak in Mauritania. This is going to be cool to watch. See how much, are there Sudanese people in Mauritania? Are they supporting? Are the Mauritanians coming out to support them? I think it's going to be a cool dynamic. Really looking forward to watching the striker Koulibaly from Mali again, who we talked about last time. They call him Messi, 18 years old, scored the first goal against Yanga. And yeah, and the goalkeeper Issa Fofana, I'm also looking forward to, the Ivorian goalkeeper. Mazembe had a breakthrough in their legal situation after match day 1 of the CAF Champions League, because if you remember, they were playing against MC of Algiers and it finished a 0-0 boring draw. And I was saying that I'm really worried about their ability to replace some of the attacking players that they lost. Fili Traore, Joel Bea, Philippe Kinzumbi, Claudio Lokonza. They bled out like a bunch of players, and they couldn't replace them because they were banned from recruiting players, from signing any players in the transfer window by FIFA. There's a breakthrough in that situation. It just happened last week. TP Mazembe are now allowed to register Congolese players, just not foreign ones. I'm just not sure if they're allowed to in the CAF Champions League or just the domestic league. I want to say it's both, but I'll confirm with you after I watch this match, I guess. So they have 9 Congolese players that they signed over the summer, and I think over last winter as well. Abdallah Rajabu, Diobeni Ndongala, Banks Mbungu, Chris Kisangala, Basile Konga, Faverdi Bongeli, Asani Saidi, Dylan Lumbu, and Christian Ibwa. 9 players, of which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are attacking players, attacking midfielders or forwards. So most of them are young. I looked at their profiles, 19, 20. They play for the U20 national team. Seem like promising players. And so I'm curious to watch them and see if they play in the CAF Champions League or just at home. But even if they just play in the domestic league, it should at least liberate some of their players to rest up again. Talk about squad depth again. at least the other players, before the big Champions League match, can maybe take a league game off, and that way they can rest up a lot better. So, anyways, that's very good news for Mazembe, and I think the winter transfer window, so maybe in a few weeks' time, they'll be able to register their foreign players as well. So, Mazembe of Matchday 2 is not like Mazembe of Matchday 1, and Mazembe of Matchday 5 or 6 is not going to be Mazembe of Matchday 1 or 2. It's going to be a team that's always changing time and time again. So we're going to have to revisit our analysis and revise our analysis time and time again. But this is going to be a match where I think it's going to be a scout's dream, because Al Hilal, like I said, have 2 or 3 top players. And if Mazembe can bring in these young Congolese players for the CAF Champions League, I mean, who wouldn't want to scout, 19-year-old Congolese strikers? I think, especially if they can start scoring goals, will be interesting alongside the player I call the Congolese Vinicius, Oscar Cabuit. Anyways, this was a little bit of a rush analysis preview of Matchday 2 of the CAF Champions League. If you've enjoyed it, please please subscribe, please leave a comment. I always like when you guys leave comments. I try to respond every single time, and we have conversations in the comment section. It's not just a comment on the video. Usually we start talking about African football in its entirety. And again, just a call to, if you haven't watched Taking a Stand, the short documentary that I shot, it would really mean a lot to me if you go and check it out and leave a comment on there and tell me what you think over there as well. All right, guys, take care. I'll check in with you on Monday after the second match day of the CAF Champions League. Enjoy the matches, and we'll speak soon. Peace.